Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Jashoda Nandana Braja Janadandana. Jashoda Nandana Braja Janadandana. Yamuna Tira Vanachadi. Yamuna Tira Vanachadi. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Jashoda Nandana Braja Janadandana. Jashoda Nandana Braja Janadandana. Yamuna Tira Vanachadi. Yamuna Tira Vanachadi. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jayom Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parividakacharya Astatarasata Srimad His Divine Grace Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnavadinda Ki Gaur Premanandi. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, what was the verse number that we ended with? Because I had to close the computer, so I'd have to. What number? How many? Try it. Try it. Okay. Yes? No, it's back further.
Last one was on 10, 25, 6 and 7. 10.
Okay, we're getting lots of opinions here, but I can't find.
10, 35, 6 and 7.
6 and 7. Okay, thank you. That helps. Yes, that makes sense. Let's see. Hang on. 6 and 7. Yeah. Yeah. Here we go. Okay. So the topic is Song of the Gopis. Krishna's gone to the forest and they're feeling separation, and they're not just chattering, they're singing songs glorifying Krishna's flute and what that flute does in relation to the different residents of Vrindavan. And he's already entered the forest, and we're going to read, continue, chapter 35 of Canto 10, text 6 and 7, Sanatana Goswami. Having entered the forest, decorated with forest ornaments befitting a costumed person, he goes to the rivers and lakes to give water to the cows. And the rivers become bewildered with the appearance of special bhavas because of the sound of his flute when he calls the cows. Sometimes he calls the cows without Balaram and the cowherds in order to give them happiness of hearing him personally. And sometimes he is with Balaram and the cowherds, or sometimes he dresses as a wrestler. When the rivers develop bhava, even when calling the cows with the boys and Balaram, Krishna seems to laugh at them boldly for not being fully dedicated to him. Paragraph, or when he calls the cows with the other boys, the rivers become stunned. What to speak of when he calls the cows by himself? This means that when he calls with the others, there is some restriction in the manifestation of sweetness, or when he calls the cowherd boys, there arises sweetness from the manifestation of special affection for the devotees. Paragraph. He who plays the flute, who is skillful at playing the flute, calls the cows with great affection by their various names. Some ahavayati. Abhayati. Mukunda means he who has teeth white like the kunda flowers. When he plays the flute to call the cows, he reveals the great beauty of his gleaming teeth. Oh, friends, you should have faith like the rivers. Or, this is related because of our relationship with the rivers, since we have similar natures. Or, it is a call made by Lalita to Radha to help her recover from the pain of prema. The rivers continue to flow in spite of all obstacles. Or, this is an address to all rivers as friends. Oh, Ganga, Yamuna, Saraswati. The word Saritaha then means the rivers around Mathura, such as Manasa Ganga, Yamuna, and Saraswati. The rivers have broken their flow. They do not follow after their husband, the ocean. Thus they ignore pious results in this life and the next. They desire just a particle, rajas, from his feet, brought by the wind. They desire dasya from far off. This is their qualification for the dust. They desire the dust particles like us. They do not have sufficient piety. Attaining it many times, they are not satisfied. They are similar to us. Though out of prema the flow of the rivers has stopped, by prema they tremble. Paragraph. Vahina stavaka can mean bunches of peacock feathers, or Bahina can mean peacock feathers, and Stavaka can refer to bunches of flowers. Palasha, so his decorations, and these are stimulations for ecstatic love for the gopis by remembering. Palashai means leaves. The rivers seem to desire the dust from his feet. The rivers have developed special bhava for him. The wind, as a messenger, has brought the dust. The rivers become stunned. Jadyam. This is a vyabhichari bhava. By the two descriptive elements concerning prema, trembling and becoming stunned, two sattvika bhavas of Shringara rasa are indicated. Shringara rasa is conjugal love, or madhurya rasa. Vepatu is trembling, another sattvika bhava. Stimitapaha indicates a total lack of movement, or fainting, moha. Final paragraph. Sanatana Goswami writes, even when the causes of the rivers coming to this condition, that is, seeing him and hearing his flute, do not occur, this condition still results by the power of his form and the sound of his flute. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur writes, in this verse the gopis state, quote, what to speak of the conscious beings, such as the bulls and deers, even the unconscious entities become stunned on hearing Krishna's flute. One other gopi spoke, quote, when Mukunda is decorated with mineral powders, such as red earth and leaves, peacock feathers, or peacock feathers and flowers, he imitates the attire of wrestlers, yet mocks them with his incomparably brilliant beauty. When Krishna, Balaram, and the cowherd boys call the cows by name, "Oh, Kanandi, Gange, Saraswati," Then rivers such as Yamuna, Manasa, Ganga, Saraswati, and others in Braja, even though they are unconscious, attain consciousness, thinking, "Oh, what good fortune we have! Krishna is calling us in order to bathe and dive in our waters. Let us break our banks with strong currents and flow towards him." Though desiring in this way, because of being stunned with bliss, their natural movement is checked, and their currents stop flowing. So some of this is repeat from yesterday, but that's perfectly fine. Paragraph. The hidden implication of the phrase bhagna gatayaha, or broken movement, is that the river's worldly progress was spoiled, bhagna, because of failing to attain the happiness of physical association with Krishna, and because they became the laughing stock of other rivers. Their progress in the next life was also spoiled because of transgressing the vows of chastity to their husbands, the ocean. Just see the misfortune of these rivers. Paragraph. Quote, "But this is to some extent good fortune also, that the rivers were hankering for the dust of Krishna's lotus feet, which was carried to them by a favorable breeze. But even after attaining it, they cannot be satisfied and desire more, like us Gopīs who sometimes get Krishna's association and sometimes are deprived of it. The rivers do not have bad fortune, but have only a little good fortune. Bahu punya." Paragraph, last paragraph. "The waves or arms of the river shake out of love, just as our arms also tremble with prema. Though their waters become solidified, stimita apaha, because of being stunned, again they liquefy. We also experience the water in our eyes drying up and solidifying, just like one who is lighting a sacrificial fire experiences his eyes drying up from the fire. In the same way, our movements were checked by our husbands, brothers, and other relatives who prevented us from meeting Krishna, and thus we have lost our goal in life. Because of being ridiculed by the general populace and for transgressing the rules of chastity, we have lost our fame and the chances for our future lives also. Like the rivers, we hanker for the dust from Krishna's lotus feet." And Jiva Goswami, there's some repeated information here, but this is his commentary, the entire 10th canto commentary. It's Vaishnava Toshini. He writes, "Having entered the forest decorated with forest ornaments befitting a costumed person, he goes to rivers and lakes to give water to the cows and rivers. The rivers become bewildered with the appearance of special babas because of the sound of his flute when he calls the cows. Sa, Balaha, indicates that Balaram is in a secondary role. In order to increase the sound, he utilized the sound of the flutes of Balaram and others. By this sound, the rivers manifest emotions, since they are also devoted to Krishna. Thinking they are unqualified to attain Krishna in another way, the rivers desire sprihayati. They desire only a speck of dust from his feet. Because of that desire, the rivers become blocked, because the flow stops. In not attaining him, the rivers are unfortunate like us, having accrued scant piety, since the rivers, like us, have rare opportunities of his association, though he performs pastimes there, because they are innumerable and many similar and different types like our groups. Paragraph. final. First, with a desire for that dust, they seem to spread their trembling arms in prema with their waves. Then, without waves, the water stops moving in sequence. First, the rivers hear the sound of the flute, then the flow stops. Then only the waves move, then the waves also stop. In Priti Sandarbha, Jiva Goswami writes, the dress of Kṛṣṇa as a cowherd, acting as udipana, was shown in the above verse. Udipana, we know, stimulations for ecstatic love. The following also shows his dress. Quote, my dear friends, this is chapter 21. When Kṛṣṇa and Balaram passed from forest to forest with their cowherd friends, with their cows, carrying ropes to bind the cow's rear legs at the time of milking, by the generous sound of his flute, among all living beings, that which move, things become inert, and trees which cannot move sprout shoots in ecstasy. This is most colorful. Paragraph. It was colorful because of their silk threads, pearls, etc. Mala Vesha, or wrestler's dress, is shown in the following. That's this text 6. My dear Gopīs, sometimes Mukunda imitates the appearance of a wrestler by decorating himself with leaves, peacock feathers, and colored minerals. Then, in the company of Balaram and the cowherd boys, he plays his flute to call the cows. His Nata Vesha, or dancer's dress, is shown chapter 23. Quote, his complexion was dark blue, and his belt was golden. Wearing a peacock feather, colored minerals, sprigs of flower buds, and a garland of forest flowers and leaves, he was dressed just like a dramatic dancer. He rested his left hand upon the shoulder of a friend, and with the other twirled a lotus. Lilies graced his ears, his hair hung down over his cheeks, and his lotus-like face was smiling. The king's dress is described. This is now for the cowherd men, chapter 5, canto 10. Oh, King Parikshit, the cowherd men, ornamented with valuable ornaments and garments, such as coats and turbans, carrying various presentations in their hands, they approached the house of Nanda Maharaj. Paragraph. The king's dress is prominent in Dwarka. A householder following Dharma is understood by his upper cloth in Gokula, chapter 15 of canto 10. By being bathed and massaged, the two young boys were relieved of the weariness caused by walking on the country roads. They then were dressed in attractive robes and decorated with transcendental garlands and fragrances. Paragraph. His pastimes become splendid with his various types of dress. Objects are his cloth ornaments, conch, chakra, horn, flute, staff, dear friends, etc. And our concluding section is Jiva Goswami's Priti Sandarbha, in short. Lord Kṛṣṇa's paraphernalia includes his garments, ornaments, conch shell, chakra, buffalo horn, bugle, flute, stick, and dear associates. paraphernalia. The appropriate times are the times appropriate for specific pastimes. Some of these pastimes are seen in the following verses of Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 20, and only a little bit there's 6 verses indicated. When the Vrindavan forest had thus become resplendent, filled with ripe dates and jumbo fruits, Lord Kṛṣṇa, surrounded by his cows and cowherd boyfriends, and accompanied by Sri Balaram, entered the forest to enjoy. Maybe I'll go and find chapter 20, texts 25 through 31. Okay, this is going to be a different translation. This is that was just number 20. We'll go through 25. Excuse me, to 30. Right? 26. Yeah, 26. The cows. We're reading from 10:20:26. The cows had to move slowly because of their weighty milk bags, but they quickly ran to the Supreme Personality of Godhead as soon as he called them, their affection for him causing their udders to become wet. Text 27. The Lord saw the joyful Aborigine girls of the forest, the trees dripping sweet sap, and the mountain waterfalls whose resounding indicated that there were caves nearby. Text 28. When it rained, the Lord would sometimes enter a cave or the hollow of a tree to play and eat roots and fruits. 29. Lord Kṛṣṇa would take his meal of boiled rice and yogurt sent from home. In the company of Lord Sankarshan and the cowherd boys who regularly ate with him, they would all sit down and eat on a large stone near the water. And then 30:31. Lord Kṛṣṇa watched the contented bulls, calves, and cows sitting on the green grass and grazing with closed eyes, and he saw that the cows were tired from the burden of their heavy milk bags. Thus observing the beauty and opulence of Vrindavan's rainy season, a perennial source of great happiness, the Lord offered all respects to that season, which was expanded from his own internal potency. It's so soothing. Kind of forget the world and nice. Hearing the pastimes of Kṛṣṇa. Anybody want to add something, share something, or ask something? Because I have an important call, so I'm going to keep it simple this morning. No. Canto 10, chapter 35, text 6 and 7. In the commentary, to embellish the message, references are made by acharyas. So I'm just letting you know, or the audience know, the references from this chapter, that chapter. The chapter, when we become familiar with the 10th canto, just hearing the chapter name, the chapter number, tells us, okay, now that's not what's happening, but just like this chapter 20, the rainy season and autumn in Vrindavan, a whole chapter just describing what's Vrindavan like during different seasons. So that's what we were reading from. Chapter 20. Yes?
Can you explain more about Mukunda?
Well, there's the usual meaning, Mukunda, giver of liberation. Our acharyas like stirring the topic of anything. So there's a kunda flower, and kunda flowers are white. So they're taking that meaning of Mukunda. His teeth were white like a kunda flower, Mukunda. That's not the usual meaning of Mukunda. Mukunda, the usual meaning we know, giver of liberation. Is that all right?
Yeah, and also forest decorations.
Forest decorations.
Forest ornaments.
Forest ornaments. Leaves. Anything you find in the forest, and he would decorate himself because he loved the forest loved him. He is reciprocating with the forest. So that's part of his happiness in being in Vrindavan. In the evening, we read he and Balaram in 3 years, 4 months, they reached Vrindavan, and so now they're a little older, but he loved Vrindavan. And so he loves decorating himself. His mother decorates him with, fancy things, and he goes to the forest and he puts on forest things.
And also minerals, like he was decorating.
It does mention minerals. So where does he get the minerals? Doesn't say where he gets them from. But his, red oxide. They're children. And, he's enjoying, they find some place where there's minerals, and he decorates himself with minerals. Children are children. Okay? Anything else?
This is when I am hearing about the sap coming from the trees, but it is not mentioned that they drank the sap or anything.
No, it doesn't mention they drank the sap.
But just a question from in the pastime of Vritrasura, where Indra offends spiritual master. So he gets sinful reaction. Bhagavatam mentions that he gave those sinful reactions to 4 people, and one of them is the trees, and because of that sap comes from the trees. And
no, not because of that sap comes from trees, but it's not to be taken. It's prohibited to take sap from trees.
So maple syrup is something that...
Gosh. If you're concerned, then don't take maple syrup. What else?
So Maharaj, I'm just sharing my understanding, like cows are running to Kṛṣṇa like with their udders full, and like sap is coming from the trees. So it feels like it was so much dense.
So much what?
So dense.
Dense.
Feeling of condensed feeling of love is there, that they are making everything is just available for Krishna to take in. Is that
well?
like that?
They're not exactly. I mean, the sap, for example, is their tears. It's not like they're offering sap to Krishna. It's yummy. It's their crying in ecstasy, and that's coming in the form of sap.
And cow's milk, like their udders are full.
They're in ecstasy. They're not like, hey, come take some milk. They're in ecstasy. It's an expression that's an external expression of something internal.
Mm-hmm.
And cows do it this way, and trees do it that way, and so forth.
I was thinking about like mothers when they feed their children. I mean, there is love in their heart. So
Yeah,
that's how I was thinking about it. That
I understand.
yeah. Thank you, Maharaj.
Anything else? Online, anything?
There was one question which is same as what
Okay. He's looking very studiously. Anything else?
I see only one. I will ask the second. I see the Mukunda question from Sucharita Mata.
So Acharya Nishtha Prabhuji is asking, in Kṛṣṇa book the clouds are described as making friendship with Krishna and shielding him. In Gokula, therefore, are all inanimate objects actually conscious and living?
I didn't get it. Did you get it?
In the Kṛṣṇa book, the clouds are described as making friendship with Krishna and shielding him. In Gokula, therefore, are all inanimate objects actually conscious and living?
Well, sometimes, most of the time we hear yes. Just this morning we heard the unconscious become conscious. We discussed this yesterday. Shanta rati, or neutrality, there's no explicit description of consciousness. On the other hand, we hear everything in the spiritual world is conscious. Say it negatively. Is there anything in the spiritual world that's not conscious? That would be jada, or dead matter. There's no dead matter in the spiritual realm. But the consciousness is in a latent or dormant state, and even those latent or dormant, like clouds and rivers and rocks and things, their latent consciousness becomes ecstatic, magnified, activated, animated. So you can give either answer and find scriptural reference to say conscious, not conscious. By the presence of Krishna, that consciousness, the latent consciousness of that which is neutral, explodes, and they express themselves with ecstatic symptoms. Waves, stunned, so on, so forth. They're waving their arms ecstatically. That's their waves. Conscious. Something else?
This is from Gopinath. It was described that waves moved, but the water was still. So how did the waves move?
Well, it went through transformations. The waves, the different stages, moving, stunned, moving. So the moving was they heard the flute and they were wanting to get dust from the feet of Krishna, so they were waving their arms, that is, the waves were moving. And then some dust came, and then they became stunned. So like that. Prabhupada ki jai.